The autumn morning in New York scattered fallen leaves on the marble steps of the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Mary Wilson hurried inside. Her appearance radiated youthfulness and intelligence. Her dark brown hair was loosely gathered, and she wore a navy suit that was understated yet sophisticated. "Good morning, Mary. Today is the final check for the Monet exhibition, right?" Senior curator Eleanor called out to her. Mary nodded with a smile. It had been 5 years since she became an assistant curator for the Impressionist department at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. During that time, all the exhibitions she had handled received high praise. The Monet exhibition opening next week would be no exception. "Eleanor, everything is going well. The last piece arrived safely yesterday," Mary said. As she entered her office, Mary checked her phone screen. There was a message from her mother, Helen. "I want to discuss birthday plans. Do you have time tonight?" Mary let out a small sigh. Her birthday was still 2 weeks away. Her mother always tried to get ahead and make perfect of plans. It might be a form of love, but it felt somewhat suffocating. Nevertheless, Mary sent a polite reply. "Of course, Mom. Around 7 would be fine." Setting down her phone, Mary gazed out the window. She could see her own faint reflection. Hers was a life others envied. She had graduated from a prestigious school with excellent grades, worked at her dream museum, and was financially independent. Yet deep down, there was something unfulfilled. In the evening, Mary arrived at her parents' mansion in the Upper East Side. As usual, the door was opened by her perfectly groomed mother, Helen. She was dressed in expensive designer clothes, and her hair looked as if she had just stepped out of a beauty salon. "Mary, I'm so glad you came. Your father and Caroline are in the living room." Helen Wilson was one of the most well-known philanthropists in the area. She served on the boards of numerous organizations, and her annual charity galas had become major social events. Behind that perfect exterior, Helen demanded the same perfection from her family, especially from her eldest daughter, Mary. When Mary entered the living room, her father Robert greeted her without looking up from his newspaper. "Hello, Mary." Robert was the president of the local Wilson Community Bank. His posture was perfectly straight, and his graying hair was impeccably styled. He was a respected figure in the financial world, and his words carried weight in the local economy. "Mary," Caroline called out in a bright voice. Caroline was an up-and-coming lawyer who served as legal counsel for her father's bank. She had just married another lawyer, James Bradley, 3 months ago. "Isn't my wedding ring lovely? I don't think I've shown it to you yet." Caroline proudly displayed her ring. A large diamond sparkled. Mary smiled gently. "It's really beautiful, Caroline. I hope you find someone nice soon too," her mother Helen said. Her words mixed surface-level concern with a hint of disappointment. "What happened with Mark?" "We broke up," Mary answered quietly. She and Mark, an art collector, had ended their 3-year relationship last month. Differences in values. Again. Caroline raised an eyebrow. "Mary, you always find the perfect boyfriend and then break up with him for some reason." Robert finally looked up from his newspaper. "How's work going?" "Good, the special Monet exhibition starts next week." "I'm the lead on it," Mary answered, a little proudly. Well, Robert's voice showed no interest. "Caroline won a big victory last week on the Anderson Group case. Her argument in court was brilliant." "That's wonderful, Caroline," Mary smiled at her sister. She genuinely thought so. However, she couldn't help feeling a slight sting when her father constantly praised Caroline's successes. "Now, about your birthday," Helen changed the subject. "We're planning a special surprise. Can you come to the house at 6 in the evening on Saturday, 2 weeks from now?" "A surprise?" Mary was a bit startled. It was unusual for her family to plan something for her. "Yes. We want to celebrate with the whole family after a long time. Caroline is helping too," Helen said happily. "All right," Mary felt a warmth spreading in her heart. How long had it been since she felt truly valued by her family? As she was leaving, Caroline walked her to the door. Mary, look forward to it, she smiled somewhat meaningfully. It's going to be an unforgettable birthday. That night, back in her apartment, Mary looked at herself in the mirror and whispered, something might change this year. Lying in bed, she thought about her complicated relationship with her family. On the surface, they looked like an ideal family, but the reality was different. But perhaps this birthday party could be a turning point. With that thought, Mary quietly closed her eyes. The day before her birthday, Mary's apartment was unusually messy. Several dresses from her closet were spread out on the bed, and the shoebox was left open. Her living space, normally well organized, had turned into a maze of choices. Maybe this one. Mary held a deep green silk dress against her body in front of the mirror. She had impulsively purchased it at a boutique on Fifth Avenue yesterday. She hesitated for a moment at the $450 price tag but convinced herself, it's for a special day. The dress elegantly wrapped around her figure, complementing her brown hair and skin tone. Perfect. She smiled with a slightly nervous expression. She remembered what Scarlett O'Hara said in Margaret Mitchell's Gone with the Wind, tomorrow is another day. Yes, tomorrow might be a new beginning. Perhaps her relationship with her family would change too. Her phone rang, displaying a reminder from the beauty salon. An appointment at 3 in the afternoon. She was scheduled to have her hair styled for tomorrow's birthday. Mary took a deep breath. I must be perfect, she told herself. It was like a family rule that had been ingrained in her since childhood. Mary pulled out an old album from the bookshelf in the living room. Looking at family photos after so long brought up complex emotions. Opening the cover, the first page showed a photo from her 6th birthday party. Mary in a pink dress with a big smile. Next to her, Caroline was reaching for Mary's cake. Those were good times, Mary whispered quietly. The family in the photo looked happy. Robert's face showed gentleness, and Helen looked proudly at Mary. However, there was a different reality beyond what the camera captured. Turning the page, she came across a photo of her high school graduation ceremony. It was the day she gave a speech as the class valedictorian. Her parents looked proud, but she remembered the conversation at home that night. Your speech was good, Mary. But you spoke a little too fast, her mother said. Caroline would have spoken more confidently. One casual comment gradually chipped away at Mary's pride. The next page showed photos from college. It was around the time she decided to major in art history. Art history? What do you plan to do with that? Robert's voice echoed in her memory. Caroline says she's going to law school. That's a choice with a future. Turning more pages in the album, there was a photo of a dinner celebrating Mary's appointment as a curator. Her parents and Caroline were toasting. On the surface, it was a celebration, but Mary couldn't forget her mother's words. Why the Brooklyn Museum? The Metropolitan would have been better. Of course, now she was working at the Metropolitan Museum. But even that fact received a lukewarm response from her family. Assistant curator? When will you be promoted? Was all they asked. Mary closed the album. Memories with her family were always a bittersweet mixture. Behind the smiles in the photos, there was always criticism and comparison. Still, she loved her family. And she hoped that tomorrow's birthday party would be an opportunity to repair their relationship. Her phone vibrated with a message notification. It was from her best friend, Jessica. Looking forward to your birthday? Something seems off. Be careful. Mary frowned. Jessica worked with her mother Helen at the same charity organization. Had she heard something? But she quickly dismissed the thought. It must be just a joke. She sent a brief reply to Jessica. Thanks. No problem. Mary stood in front of the mirror again, looking at her new dress. Whatever happens, she wanted to make tomorrow a special day. Taking a deep breath, she carefully hung the dress on a hanger. That night, Mary had trouble falling asleep. Since childhood, she had complex feelings about birthdays. Especially her 12th birthday was unforgettable. Everyone was busy celebrating Caroline's victory in a debate competition, and Mary's birthday was pushed aside. Eventually, a formal party was held a week later with her mother's friends, but it was more of a social gathering for her mother than for Mary. This time will be different, Mary assured herself. Her mother said she was planning a special surprise. Caroline was helping too. It was rare for both of them to do something for Mary. Perhaps they were really starting to change. However, Jessica's message bothered her. What did she mean by, "Something seems off"? Mary picked up her phone, intending to call Jessica. But looking at the clock, it was already past 1 in the morning. She decided to do it tomorrow morning. Outside the window, the Manhattan night skyline was glittering. Among countless lights, Mary's heart wavered too. A mix of expectation and anxiety. She closed her eyes and remembered the words her grandmother had taught her as a child. True love supports you at all times. Grandmother Martha was the only one in the family who loved Mary unconditionally. Even after she passed away 5 years ago, her words remained Mary's support. Tomorrow, whatever happens, I will be strong. Mary finally fell asleep. On the evening of her birthday, Mary was tense in the back seat of a taxi heading to her parents' house. Outside the window, the Manhattan skyline flowed by, and the soft light of dusk tinted the skyscrapers gold. Wearing her deep green silk dress, her hair was styled in soft waves at the beauty salon. Inside her small clutch bag were small thank you cards for her father, mother, and Caroline. "This is fine, thank you." Mary got out of the taxi in front of her parents' house on a quiet Upper East Side street and took a deep breath. The substantial brownstone building seemed to symbolize the stability and prestige of the Wilson family. Usually, warm light would be streaming from the windows, but today the entire building looked unusually dim. Maybe they've dimmed the lights on purpose for a surprise party, Mary told herself. Climbing the stairs and standing before the entrance door, she made one final check of herself in a small mirror. She had grown stronger than she was a year ago. She had overcome her breakup with Mark and was aiming higher in her career. And today, her relationship with her family might open a new page. When she turned the doorknob, it was unlocked as expected. "Mom? Dad?" "Caroline," she called out as she entered, but was greeted by an eerie silence. The dimly lit entrance was empty. Instead, an empty cake box and some used party crackers were scattered on the floor. Mary frowned. Was this some kind of mistake? Had she misunderstood the date? She took out her phone and checked the message from her mother. No, there was no mistake. It clearly said to come at 6 o'clock today. "Mom? Is anyone here?" She called out again, but there was no response. Mary reached for the light switch at the entrance, but for some reason, it didn't work. She carefully took off her shoes and quietly proceeded to the living room. It was similarly dim and showed no signs of people. What is this? Suddenly, the large TV screen in the living room lit up brightly. Startled, Mary turned around and was speechless at what was displayed. On the screen was herself, at this very moment. Her confused expression as she stood in the center of the room was displayed in high resolution. "What? Did you really think we would celebrate your birthday?" Helen's cold, sharp voice resonated throughout the room from nowhere. Mary looked around but couldn't see her mother. Only her voice seemed to be coming from speakers. "Mom? What is this?" The solo birthday livestream is a huge success. This time it was Caroline's voice. Her voice mixed undisguised mockery and joy. Looking closely at the TV screen, Mary realized it was a YouTube live streaming screen. Comments were flowing at the bottom of the screen, and the viewer counter showed 1,243 watching. This was the surprise? Mary's voice trembled. "Yes, Mary," Helen's voice continued. "You have always disappointed us. Pretending to be a model student, but ultimately achieving nothing. 36 years old and still an assistant curator. Unmarried, no children. Not worthy of carrying on the family name. Compared to Caroline, you're truly pathetic," Robert's voice joined in. "She's a successful lawyer at 32. Had a beautiful wedding, already planning for children. Compared to her, you are..." Mary was speechless. She couldn't distinguish whether this was reality or a nightmare. Her heart was pounding rapidly, and the room seemed to be spinning. But she leaned against the wall for support and took deep breaths. This stream already has over 1,000 viewers, Caroline's voice echoed again. Everyone is watching Mary Wilson's miserable birthday. A lonely woman loved by no one. Mary stared at the screen. It showed her image. A woman in a green dress. Her hair beautifully set, her makeup perfect. But her face showed deep sadness and shock. In the comment section, cruel words from strangers continued to flow. But then, something strange happened. Mary's expression began to change. The face that had been sunk in shock and sadness gradually transformed into a different expression. It was a smile. A quiet, calm smile that held a mysterious strength. Mary. Helen's voice sounded a bit anxious. Why are you smiling? Mary didn't answer and just continued to smile quietly. That smile no longer held sadness or fear. Instead, what was there was understanding and determination. What are you smiling at? Caroline's voice turned sharp. Have you gone crazy? Mary slowly opened her clutch bag and took out her smartphone. She opened an app and pressed a button. Suddenly, the TV screen switched. The YouTube livestream continued, but what was displayed was no longer Mary's image. What's happening? Robert's panicked voice could be heard. Why did the screen change? The new footage showed a title, Mary Wilson Presents, a true portrait of the family. Then the narration began. It was Mary's own voice. Good evening, everyone. This is Mary Wilson. I'm now going to show you the true face of my family. Mary stood in the center of the living room, continuing to smile quietly. Her back was straight, and the green dress seemed to highlight her strength. She knew this day would come. Months ago, her friend Jessica had informed her of her family's plan. And she had set a trap in return. Mary. What are you doing? Helen's voice was now filled with fear. Just showing the truth, Mom, Mary answered calmly. The truth about what you've done to me. On the TV screen, records that Mary had collected since she was a child began to be displayed. Footage from hidden cameras, recorded conversations, emails, messages. They all exposed the ugly truth hidden behind the elegant exterior of the Wilson family. Mary stood in front of the TV, clutching her smartphone. Her heart was calm. For 36 years, she had lived within this family. Wishing to be loved, seeking approval, and yet always being told she was never enough. But today, everything would change. Do you know why I'm smiling? Mary said quietly. Because I'm free. Today, I'm liberated from your expectations, criticisms, and comparisons. Today is my true birthday. The family portrait hanging on the living room wall still seemed to maintain its dignity even in the dim light. The faces of generations of Wilsons. But in Mary's eyes, there was no longer any intimidation. What was there was merely pictures of people who had been maintaining false appearances. Welcome, everyone. To the beginning of my new life. Mary said quietly toward the camera. The title, Mary Wilson Presents, a true portrait of the family, on the TV screen shone for a few seconds before the video began. The first image showed 10-year-old Mary performing at a school piano recital. This is footage of me at age 10, playing Schubert's D'Impromptu, Mary's narration flowed. After the performance, my mother said this to me. The scene changed to show Helen speaking to young Mary in the dressing room after the recital. Your performance was embarrassing. You should have practiced more. Everyone was laughing. The smile disappeared from young Mary's face, and tears welled up, clearly recorded. Mom, that was a private conversation. How did you record it? Helen's voice was trembling. I've always been recording, Mary answered quietly. To confirm that I wasn't going crazy. The next footage showed 15-year-old Mary coming home to report that she had won first prize in a school art contest. It showed Robert's indifferent attitude. Art? What do you plan to become with that? Caroline has been selected as the state representative for the debate competition. That's more important. And the footage continued. Mary's college days, when she held her first exhibition at the campus gallery, her parents didn't visit because they were busy. Meanwhile, the same parents took time off work to support Caroline at her mock trial. Evidence of decades of psychological abuse and neglect. No matter what I achieved, I was never recognized. But the footage took an even more shocking turn. The screen showed hidden camera footage from Robert's office, dated last year. Robert was talking with a young bank executive. Make sure this transaction doesn't appear in the official records. Move the client's funds to our Cayman Islands account. We can fill it back in if the financial authorities start investigating. Dad, you were embezzling from the bank, Mary's voice was calm. Trusted as the president of a small community bank, but in reality, misappropriating client funds. Mary. This is illegal. It's an invasion of privacy. Robert's voice mixed anger and fear. Illegal? Mary laughed. Are you talking about the embezzlement? The next footage was even more shocking. Evidence of Helen using charitable foundation funds for private shopping. The scene of her purchasing jewelry at a luxury brand store using diverted donation funds was recorded with dates and amounts. Mom was pretending to help the community while actually enriching herself. Her reputation as a philanthropist was all false. How could you do this? Helen's voice was now on the verge of tears. You are our daughter. Did you ever treat me as your daughter? Mary's voice was quiet. Finally, the screen displayed Caroline's secret. Recently married Caroline was recorded meeting multiple men. Scenes of her entering luxury hotels, intimate kisses. All footage had dates and times recorded. Despite having married just 3 months ago, Caroline's infidelity was evident. Caroline, you always called me a failure, a loser. Said you were more successful. But what is true failure? Mary. You're insane. Caroline's voice trembled with anger. Turn this off. Right now. Mary looked at her smartphone and smiled quietly. It's too late. This footage has already been sent to the FBI, IRS, and the state prosecutor's office. And to Caroline's husband, James. The comment section of the livestream was exploding. Is this real? I need to withdraw my money from Wilson Bank. Hypocrites. The viewer count had exceeded 5,000. 10 years, Mary said quietly. For 10 years, I have endured the abuse from all of you. Even as an adult, I was constantly compared, criticized, and looked down upon. But today, that ends. Mary stood in the center of the living room and looked directly at the camera. To all viewers, I cannot forgive my family. But I can forgive myself. For believing for so long that I had no value, for not having confidence in myself. Today, I am free from that spell. The room was enveloped in silence. Neither father, mother, nor sister made any further sound. Perhaps they were feeling their world collapsing at this very moment. Dad, you will be investigated by financial authorities within days. Mom, the charity board has already received evidence of your embezzlement. Caroline, James has seen this footage and is probably looking for a divorce lawyer by now. Mary closed her clutch bag and looked around the room with a composed expression. Memories of her childhood spent in this house flashed through her mind. A place she once thought was safe. Now, a past she would never return to. This is, Mary said quietly. I'm going back to New York to live my own life. I will never again live within your expectations or criticisms. Mary started walking toward the entrance. Her steps were light, as if relieved of a long-standing burden. Mary. Helen's voice echoed. You are still our daughter. Why expose family matters to the whole world? Mary stopped and turned around. Family? If you had ever thought of me as family, you wouldn't have done something like this today. This is my birthday present. To myself. Reaching the entrance, Mary turned back once more. A place where she once sought love. But now, she no longer felt that need. She knew her own worth. And it didn't depend on the approval of anyone in this house. Mary opened the door and walked out into the darkness of the night. Notifications were constantly arriving on her smartphone. The YouTube livestream had reached over 100,000 viewers, and inquiries from the media were pouring in. But Mary's heart was quiet. Because she had finally obtained the liberation and freedom she had been seeking for 36 years. 6 months had passed. Sitting in a cafe near Central Park in New York, Mary was drinking coffee while watching the autumn leaves. The fall breeze gently swayed her hair. Her expression showed a calmness and confidence she had never had before. Mary. The voice came from Richard Morris, the director of the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Last month, Mary had been officially promoted to head curator of the Impressionist department. "Good morning, Richard," she smiled. "Is the preparation for the Van Gogh exhibition going well?" "Yes, all the pieces from Paris and Amsterdam have been arranged." Richard nodded with satisfaction. "Your promotion was truly deserved. Your talent has been underestimated for a long time." "Thank you," Mary smiled. Her birthday incident had become a big topic in the art world. But her colleagues showed remarkable understanding and appreciated her work. After Richard left, Mary opened a news app. The top news was no longer about her family, but occasionally there were updates. Today was one such day. Former Wilson Community Bank president sentenced to 7 years in prison for embezzlement. It was an article about her father, Robert. He had been charged with embezzling millions of dollars from customers and was convicted last week. The bank was being rebuilt under new management, but it would take a long time to restore trust. Her mother Helen had avoided criminal charges but was expelled from all the charitable organizations she had been involved with. The former belle of the social scene now had no one calling on her. The last Mary heard, she had moved to a small town in Florida, seeking complete anonymity. Caroline had taken the biggest hit. Her husband James immediately filed for divorce, and she was fired from her law firm. Having lost her reputation, it was difficult for her to find re-employment in the legal field. According to her last social media check, Caroline seemed to be trying to start a new life in Chicago. Mary took a deep breath. She wasn't feeling joy at the results of her revenge. Rather, there was a kind of emptiness. After all, she had forever lost the family love she had been seeking since childhood. Mary. Turning around, she saw her boyfriend, Alex, standing there. He was a film director whom Mary had met at an exhibition she had curated. Mary was gradually opening her heart to Alex's gentle gaze and sincere character. "Thinking?" Alex asked as he sat beside her. "A little," Mary answered honestly. "Sometimes I think about the choices I made. Do you regret them?" Mary thought for a moment and slowly shook her head. "I don't regret it. But I do feel sad. Sad that I couldn't have a real family." Alex took her hand. "Family isn't just about blood. Sometimes we create our own families." Mary smiled. "You might be right." The two left the cafe and began to walk slowly through Central Park. The autumn sunshine cast a golden light on the fallen leaves. The wounds of the past weren't completely healed, but Mary was walking forward. Her smartphone rang, and a message arrived. Mary was a bit surprised at the name displayed. It was from Caroline. "I want to talk." Not asking for forgiveness. Just, want to talk. Mary stared at the message for a long time. Should she reply, or ignore it forever? She took a deep breath. "Something wrong?" Alex asked worriedly. "Just a message. I'll reply later." Mary put her smartphone back in her pocket and held Alex's hand more firmly. She might reply to Caroline's message. Or she might not. That was tomorrow's problem. Today, in this moment, Mary Wilson was walking her own path. "Where do you want to go next?" Alex asked. Mary looked up at the sky. A clear blue sky. Infinite possibilities. Anywhere. Wherever we want to go.